Good morning and welcome to Sunday, the best day of the week. It is the day that we celebrate the resurrection. Because of the resurrection, we have justification. Because of the death and burial, we have identification with Christ and Christ's identification with our sin. But at the open tomb, we have proof that God accepted Jesus' sin payment for us on our behalf, which means we now have a clean conscience. We have been justified. We are rendered as if we had never sinned in the first place. How powerful is that? So as we're enjoying this day, we can meditate on something out of the book of Hebrews. We're closing out a 39-verse chapter. We've had to tackle as many as 7 or 8 verses in a day. Now we're down to 4 final verses, wrapping this up and putting a bow on it as we complete the 10th chapter. And it goes like this. You need to persevere. Now, what does it mean to persevere? Not quit in the middle of something. Have you ever had an unfinished birdhouse? I used to have great ambitions to do one of two things: build a birdhouse to help house all the homeless birds that lived near our house. Beautiful birds, blue jays, cardinals, Baltimore Orioles, red-winged blackbirds, you name it. And so I would have a great idea. One was to feed them, so build a bird feeder. The other one was build a birdhouse. And we're not talking about a simple one just for one bird, but multiple family housing. I had great ambitions. Then I would go to the scrap box of wood and start to begin to cut with a hacksaw. Yes, a hacksaw. Did you ever try to cut oak with a hacksaw? Or use a finish nail to drive into an piece of oak that hasn't been pre-drilled? I smashed my finger a lot, bent a lot of nails, and got angry and threw a half-finished birdhouse back in the scrap box over and over and over again. I didn't persevere and see to it that I finished it. I didn't do it. It took me till much later in my life to actually work through discouragement and finish a project, whether it was framing a house, installing a floor, you name it. I became aware of something. Somewhere about 2/3 of the way through the job, sometimes 7/8 through a job, sometimes 15/16 through a job, I felt like quitting. I wanted to bail. Why? I didn't have perseverance. I needed to develop perseverance. Perseverance has to be developed by hanging in there and not quitting when you feel like it. Listen to what the writer of Hebrews, as he closes out this chapter, says. You need to persevere so that when you have done the will of God, you will receive what he has promised. So there's a hanging in there when you're doing the will of God. It doesn't always go well and smoothly. It doesn't always get applauded. There are people who will be against you. In this case, the Hebrews had the rest of their nation against them. The Sanhedrin, the chief priests, the scribes, the Pharisees, the teachers of the law, the civil leaders, the king, and others. They had everyone against them by following Jesus of Nazareth and believing he is the Messiah. To them, he says, you need to persevere. Why? Because you feel like quitting. This is tough. This is hard. For in just a little while, here's a word of encouragement. For in just a little while, he who is coming will come and will not delay. Who are they waiting to come back? Who are they wanting to see on his second coming? Jesus of Nazareth, the same Jesus who was taken up into heaven, will come again. He will not delay. He will come. Because it seems like he has delayed. And here's another word of encouragement. But my righteous one will live by faith, will live by God confidence, will live by trusting in things that he cannot see. My righteous one will live by faith. He'll remain faithful. He won't quit. He won't bail out, because he knows that next time it all gets destroyed by fire. He knows there's a testimony of people who failed to believe the report of the spies and didn't enter the land. And I take no pleasure in the one who shrinks back. Aren't we interested in the pleasure of the Lord? I am. I want to please the Lord. And it's not found in the law. It is found in perseverance and confidence and trust in he who has begun the work, that he shall be faithful to complete it, and we will continue to cooperate. And we do not belong to those who shrink back. Remember, he said he was persuaded of much better things of us. We do not belong to those who shrink back, pull back, and are destroyed. This is what happened to the people in the wilderness. They shrunk back. They said, we will not go into the land. What ended up happening? They lived on manna, quail, and divinely provided water until the last one of them died, having died in the wilderness, never made it into the promised land. We do not belong to those who shrink back and are destroyed. Those who reject Jesus, those who bail out on Jesus, those who abandon Jesus, those who apostatize, go on to be destroyed. This is clear. We do not belong to those. That's not where we want our membership. Isn't he persuaded better things? He's going to warn about that, but he's going to point towards the hope and the confidence that we have in the love of God. But to those who have faith and are saved. Future. It's off in the future. I'm going to bring my hand in here where I can see it. It's off in the future. In fact, it's over. That's past, right? Over here. In the future. We do not belong to those who shrink back, but to those who have faith and move on down the timeline, hang in there, don't bail out, devote themselves and addict themselves to Yeshua HaMashiach, Jesus the Messiah, the light of the world. We belong to those who have faith and are saved. This is that durative, continuous activity of being in receivership of our salvation. We hang on to faith, and we're going to see in the next chapter how powerful and necessary that faith, that continuation, that perseverance is. He's going to go deeper now and connect us to some other stories in the Old Testament. Stories of faith, not stories of faithlessness. He started with the story of faithlessness. Millions of people, over a million, who said, no way, we're not going on, we're not persevering, we're not continuing on into the promised land. No way. Now, we're not with them, but there's a whole nother group. There's a whole nother cluster of stories that we get to hear as we move next week into the book of Hebrews chapter 11. So stay tuned. Come on back on Monday, and we will move forward into the faith chapter, Hebrews chapter 11. The Lord bless you. His grace and peace be upon you. May He stir your spirit and bring something out of these few verses to you that will mean life to you and life abundantly. The Lord bless you. Have a great day. We'll see you on Monday.